Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Dear brothers and sisters, thank you very much for joining this very important program. We will start our proceedings normally with the recitation from the Holy Quran. And I call on Dr. Tahir Tori Sahib to give us the Arabic recitation from the Holy Quran with the English translation for the Tahir side.
Assalamu alaikum.
It looks as if you don't want us to see you. Can you move back a little bit so that we can see you a little bit? Either you move your gadget forward or you move back yourself, whichever way.
Actually, I have my laptop on my thigh because of my circumstance at the moment. So.
Okay, carry on.
Yeah, because I have kids around. So. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا هل أدلكم على تجارة تنجيكم من عذاب أليم. تؤمنون بالله ورسوله وتجاهدون في سبيل الله بأموالكم وأنفسكم ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. يغفر لكم ذنوبكم ويدخلكم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار ومساكن طيبة في جنات عدن ذلك الفوز العظيم. وأخرى تحبونها نصر من الله وفتح قريب وبشر المؤمنين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا أنصار الله كما قال عيسى ابن مريم للحواريين من أنصاري إلى الله قال الحواريون نحن أنصار الله فآمنت طائفة من بني إسرائيل وكفرت طائفة فأيدنا الذين آمنوا على عدوهم فأصبحوا ظاهرين. Translation. These are verses 11 to 15 of Surah Saf, chapter 61 of the Holy Quran. O ye who believe, shall I point out to you a commerce which will deliver you from a painful punishment? That you believe in Allah and His Messenger and strive in the cause of Allah with your wealth and your persons. That is better for you if you did but know. He will forgive you your sins and admit you to gardens through which streams flow, and to pure and pleasant dwellings in gardens of eternity. That is the supreme triumph. And He will bestow upon you another favor which you love, help from Allah and a nigh victory. So give glad tidings to the believers. O ye who believe, be helpers of Allah, as said Jesus, son of Mary, to his disciples. Who are my helpers in the cause of Allah? The disciples said, we are helpers of Allah. So a party of the children of Israel believed, while a party disbelieved. Then we aided those who believed against their enemy, and they became predominant. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Dr. Tahit Fori, for that beautiful recitation with the English translation. I know the kids were making a bit of some nice sounds at the back, but we're all used to it, you know, due to COVID at least. So thank you very much for that. We'll now invite our respected PAAMA President Mujib Bayu Sahib, Midlands region and the West region. So we have the North President to give us the welcome address. Mr. Bayu Sahib.
Jazakallah. Auzubillah minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Respected Chairman, our respected speakers, the PAAMA President Tumikalon Sahib, my brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, that Allah has graciously granted us the opportunity to hold these glorious events. I most humbly welcome you to PAAMA events, navigating through high cost of living and achieving financial stability. I want to sincerely thank committee chairman, Brother Kitim Conley Sahib, and his hard-working team members, Alhaji Abdulgani Dojai, Brother Rashid Eni, Brother Benjamin York, and many others who work in the background for their meticulous and meritorious job to bring these events to a reality. I also want to thank our reputable speakers for taking time out of their precious and tight schedule to be with us this glorious afternoon. Brothers and sisters, this afternoon, by the grace of God, our speaker aimed at enlightening us on various financial matters, including how to live within our means, benefit system, entrepreneurship, and many more. We have also received many questions, which inshallah, they will answer for us. We have organized these events to educate ourselves on how to live successfully without losing our value of righteousness, and to avoid long-term consequences of any bad choices we may be tempted to make in the time of high cost of living as we are in right now. My brothers and sisters, the respected Amir Sab of Nigeria, Alhaji Barrister Alatoye Shahid, once told me that a clever man knows many ways of doing things, but a wise man knows only right ways of doing things. Inshallah, this afternoon, we shall be acting in accordance with this guidance and advice. And inshallah, we'll be able to avoid bad choices. In the end, we may be tempted to make during this challenging period. I sincerely thank Brother Kamal Amako Sahib, PAAMA West Regional President, and Dr. Akim Bakari Sahib of Milan Region for their collaborative efforts to make this event happen. Most importantly, I thank Brother Ahmed Owusu Konodo, the Vice President PAAMA UK, for his guidance throughout the planning of this event. May Almighty Allah bless you all. I once again humbly welcome you all, and I pray that we may all benefit immensely from this event. Jazakallah, have a glorious moment. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear respected PAAMA North President, for the welcome address. Since the PAAMA North President have now welcomed us, I believe we are all set to go for the event. And we will probably have our first speaker is Raza Sab. Have you been able to join us yet? And Benjamin Sab, if Raza Ahmed is on the call. Raza Sab, can you raise up your hand if you don't have your full name so that you can be made a co-host? Raza Sab, are you on the? Okay, I know Raza Sab is actually on a journey. I'm not too sure whether he's been able to join us yet, which means we probably may have to make a slight change to the program, which will mean that our dear brother Abdul Salam, Ahmed Salam Sahib will probably have to come first as a speaker. Is Raza Sab on the call? Murabi Raza Sab, are you with us? Okay, looks like he's not joined us yet. Okay, I'll probably have to make that quick call and then
I think he's just literally just joined.
It's just literally just coming in right on time. Raza Sab, can you hear us now?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa
Wa alaikum
barakatuh.
salam.
Finally, we can see your beautiful face on the screen. Jazakumullah. You started making everyone start beating, but you are here and I believe you'll be able to do justice for us. Brother Raza Sab is a renowned scholar and a missionary of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, currently serving here in the United Kingdom, and also a renowned presenter, Voice of Islam Radio here in the United Kingdom, and most of you would also know him, a very popular face on MTA International. Brother Sab is here to talk to us about how to live within your means from the Islamic perspective. Brother Sab, over to you, audience. That is your renowned speaker. I know he's on a journey, he's on a hike. So thank you very much for joining us. Despite, and I know he's probably pulled up. They are a group of Kudam on a journey. They've pulled up at the service to join us. So Jazakumullah and welcome to all the Kudam who are with you. Over to you, Raza Sab.
Jazakallah, Ustaz Ahmed Sahib. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والذين إذا أنفقوا لم يسرفوا ولم يقتروا وكان بين ذلك قواما. زين للناس حب الشهوات النساء والبنين والقناطير المقنطرة من الذهب والفضة والخيل المسومة والأنعام والحرث ذلك متاع الحياة الدنيا والله عنده حسن المآب. And those who spend, and those who, when they spend, are neither extravagant nor niggardly about, but adopt a moderate position in the middle. Beautified for men is the love of desired things, women and children, and stored up heaps of gold and silver, and pastured horses and cattle and crops. That is the provision of the present life, but it is Allah with whom is an excellent home. Now, when we talk about the topic that was given to me by respected Brother Ahmed Nader Sahib and the PAAMA organization was how to live within our means, which is something that I think in today's day and age, it's a solution that we all are looking for. But at the same time, it's not just about how to live within one's means, it's also what comes with living within one's means. Are you forced to live within your means? Are you desiring? Are you wishing? Are you jealous? Are you, running after things that you don't have and you wish that you had yourself? Or does it have to do anything with whatever Allah Ta'ala has given you, that we are content with that we're happy with that, and that we make the best of that? And whatever life throws at us in any situation whatsoever, we say, Alhamdulillah. So that's something that I would like to do here in the next couple of minutes. There's another verse in the Holy Quran which Allah Ta'ala states that eat and drink, but do not exceed the bounds. Now, the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, there's a very beautiful narration in which the Holy Prophet ﷺ says that the children of Adam, they fill no vessel worse than their stomachs. Sufficient for the children of Adam are a few morsels to keep their backs straight, but if they must eat more than that, let 1/3 be of food, 1/3 for water, and 1/3 for easy breathing. What do we need? I mean, when I read this hadith, I always think about when we've just come out of the Tahriq-e-Jadid year and Hazur has announced, and I would like to congratulate everyone. I know that the whole entire Jamaat, it doesn't matter which part of the country you belong to, that we've all pulled together on this string. And by the grace of Allah, Hazur has expressed, his good wishes and his happiness about the results. But as a Muslim, the second Khalifa has talked about and has spoken about when it comes to the purposes and the works of Tahriq-e-Jadid. In that, he spoke exactly about what the Holy Prophet ﷺ was talking about in this hadith. That what do we need? If you remember, every year during the month of Ramadan, we go through this exercise. Now, you fasted your whole entire day. And then when it comes to breaking your fast, so you break your fast, you go for Maghrib, and then you come back. Let's be honest with ourselves. And I address myself in the very, very first place here. How many times have we broken our fast? We had a date, or, a little bit of that fruit chart, or, whatever you make in your homes. And then you go for Maghrib. How many of us actually think that, oh, we're still hungry? That little portion that we have between the breaking of the fast and Maghrib, whatever snack you have prepared at home, that is actually sufficient. Because then 4 or 5 hours later, we're going to get up anyways. And that's something that we may have to look at. So that's what as a Muslim was saying, that cut down on your costs. Live a simple life. Don't be too proud, too arrogant to do even the smallest of tasks. Now, in this day and age, we know that in the UK, for example, the labor force, there's more than enough work to do. But sometimes it's our egos, sometimes it's our arrogance that, catches or gets a hold of ourselves and say, why should I do this kind of work? I'm too good for this, or I'm too qualified for this. And that's something that we need to get out of our system. Hazrat Fatma, anha, the daughter of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, she came to him once, and I'm sure you know this. And we're talking about that daughter that whenever she would come to the Holy Prophet ﷺ, he would get up out of respect. He said, my daughter Fatma is here. And that's how much he respected her. Now, she came to him one time and she spoke about the chores of the household, what she had to do and how difficult it was and all of that stuff. And one aspect was about the grinding of the grain. And she said that, oh Prophet of Allah, imagine this is one of the most beloved daughters of his, and just a daughter, just forget about it's a daughter coming to her father. And he said, and she said that, oh Father or Prophet of Allah, that this grinding of the grain and bringing water to the house and all of these things, they're a bit difficult, they're tiring. So if you have any help that you could give me, if you have someone that you could assign to me, a helper or a servant, then that would be great. The Holy Prophet ﷺ responded that no arrangements had yet been made for the Ashab al-Sufa. They were going to be taken care first, and until then, he could not pay attention to any other matter. Now, in another collection, it says that the Holy Prophet ﷺ said that the orphans of Badr have priority over you. At last, he gave this advice to his daughter that before going to sleep, you should recite 33 times Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, 33 times Alhamdulillah, and 34 times Allahu Akbar. Now, having a servant or a slave cannot compare to the remembrance of Allah. He said, for you, this remembrance of Allah shall be much better than a servant. In his Friday sermon delivered on the 30th of April 2004, Hazur spoke specifically and just about this very topic that I'm talking about, how to be content with the things that we have. And Hazur said that worldly people desire to marry into wealth in order to further their material acquisitions. And even today, the so-called educated, progressive people wish for male offspring with the idea that sons would help promote their acquisitive ventures. Thus, a spiral of greed and self-indulgence is created. Now, Hazur recited the verse, and he said that as in this verse that talks about, the verse that I recited in the beginning, talking about how we love things of this world, horses and women and gold and whatnot. And Hazur said that these verses indicate all these are temporary measures of this world and are contrary to the dignity of a believer whose objective should be the worship of God and service of creation. Unfortunately, Muslims today have befallen into the materialistic web. He said, in this negative climate, the responsibility on Ahmadis across the board is even greater to adopt ways of contentment and simplicity, so that we are enabled to be inclined towards Allah rather than consume ourselves in worldly affairs. Indeed, Allah's blessings are there to be enjoyed and benefited from however, it is the element of covetousness that tarnishes. The Holy Prophet ﷺ said that moderation in expenditure is half the economy, and one who is obedient during difficult times and remains content has found refuge. He admonished that if a man owns even a valley full of gold, he will wish for still another valley. Hazur counseled against getting entrapped in the wish to acquire wealth to a degree where people invest capital with erratic individuals and end up losing everything. He said that the Holy Prophet ﷺ taught to always be aware of those lesser fortunate than oneself, rather than covet the wealth of those who are better off than us. Now, one thing that I always ask the people here in, for example, when I'm in Croydon or any other place, the people is sitting in front of me. So you who are listening to me right now, I would like to ask you, if you think back to the time when you came to this country, if you think back to the time that Allah Ta'ala blessed you, what were we before? What did we become? Mirza of Germany always gives this example that if you go to the parking of Jalsa Salana, you will see how much Allah Ta'ala has blessed this community. You will see how much Allah Ta'ala has blessed you, has blessed me, everyone who's sitting here. But as is the nature of man, that we always want to have more. We want to have a bigger house, a bigger car, a nicer job, and whatnot. So this aspect of being content with what you have, and not just because you have to, but deeply, from deep within inside, you say that I had nothing, I came from nothing. Whatever I have been, granted, Allah Ta'ala has given to me. So continuing with this, Hazur said that he related a few hadiths talking about the life of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, because ultimately he is our goal. He is the role model that we have to have in front of us. And Hazur said that there would be days when even some discarded date would not be available for him to eat. After prophethood, the Holy Prophet ﷺ did not eat bread made with milled wheat flour. Rather, his bread would be made of coarse barley. In his supreme sense of contentment, the Holy Prophet ﷺ referred to vinegar as a fine broth. And once, for the duration of 2 months, food was not cooked in his house, and they survived by eating dates, drinking water, and at times his neighbors would send some milk to drink. This is the man that this universe has been created for. This is the man that Allah Ta'ala says that, "O Prophet, O Muhammad, if I had not created you, I would not have bothered to create this universe." And I don't know about the universe, but today, as Ahmed Sah mentioned, we went hiking here in north of Wales. This earth that Allah Ta'ala has gifted to us, it's the most amazing, most beautiful thing that we have. And he gave it to us without even our asking. Now imagine all of these mountains that we've saw today, the lakes and whatnot. All of this has been created for us because of the Holy Prophet ﷺ. And that same man, when he came back to Mecca as a conqueror, as someone who could rule over that city, he conquers the city. He breaks the idols. And then he goes home. And of course, he was a man. He had requirements. He had needs. And he asked, what's there to eat? There was no lavish banquet. There was no, buckets of meat and salads and fruits and desserts and drinks. No. You all know the answer. It was dried bread with vinegar, that fine broth that he had on that day. The master of the universe, the person that Allah Ta'ala said, I have created this, not this world, not this country, not this religion, this universe for you. And there was not a single sign of unhappiness, not a single sign that you could say he was not content with what he had, his victory meal of dried bread and vinegar. As we spoke about, and this is something I think we really need to be careful of, about weddings as well. Now, if you read the 10 conditions of bad, Hazur has given a whole chapter about this, un-Islamic customs, and how it's not just about the cost aspect, but also the things that come with it. But even when you look at the cost aspect, the size of the wedding, the location of the wedding, doesn't guarantee success of the wedding, unfortunately. So that's something that we also need to be careful of. To be dragged into something that we don't want, peer pressure, as they say, that should be a thing in high school. That should be a thing in 4th grade or 5th grade. But when we as parents, we as grown-ups, we as decision makers of the house, go after something that we simply cannot afford, just because our neighbor or someone in the Jamaat or a relative has done, then we have not understood the essence of what the Holy Prophet ﷺ and the Promised Messiah ﷺ tried to teach us. Lastly, I want to say that Benjamin Franklin once said that buy what thou hast no need of, and before long thou shalt sell thy necessary. Meaning that if you buy something that you don't need, the time will not be far when you're gonna have to sell things that you actually need. And then advising us, he said that rather go to bed supperless than rise in debt. So that's probably something that Ahmad Salam Sahib is going to talk about, but I just found this quote and I thought it was very, very interesting, very powerful. I thought I'd share that with you. So the point I was trying to make, and I think very humble request to everyone, is that look towards the real source of happiness. We have that connection with Allah Ta'ala. If we have this affirmation that God is not going to let me go to work, God is never going to leave me alone. That's the conviction that makes prophets move against entire civilization. That was the conviction that made the Holy Prophet ﷺ go up against an entire society with nobody on his side. That was the conviction that every prophet of Allah has, because they know the one who sent me is going to support me. And we believe in the prophet of the age. We believe it's not just the promised Messiah, it's a prophet of Allah who has lived just a couple of decades ago. And we are the ones who believe in him. And that's exactly what the Prophet Messiah came for, isn't it? That we have a bond with Allah Ta'ala, that we have a creation, that we have a relationship with God Almighty, that, is so strong that if anything happens, no matter what the world and life throws at us, we're ready for it. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah.
Jazakumullah Hasan Jaza, Brother Raza Sab, for that short and very sweet words, but straight to the point. And I believe all of us would have benefited a lot from it. And hopefully you'll be here to stay with us to go through quite a lot of questions that have come through, inshallah. But I'll move on to our keynote speaker for today. And that's no other person than Mr. Ahmed Salam Sahib. Mr. Ahmed Salam is a career investment banker. His career has included working with banks such as Rothschilds and Credit Suisse. He was a founder director of the first Western regulated Islamic bank, the Islamic Bank of Britain. He has sat on a number of boards, including Aston Martin and Clive Christian. Most importantly, Ahmed Salam serves as the Jamaat UK Sanad Tijarat Secretary, that is the Trade and Commerce Secretary for the United Kingdom Jamaat. And before that, prior to that, he had a long stint working in the langar, the kitchen. I mean, that is where he's always enjoyed working, despite all the accolades that we've already given him. I should also add that Ahmed Salam Sahib is the son of Professor Abdul Salam, the very first Pakistani and the first Muslim scientist to win the Nobel Prize. I believe Ahmed Salam Sahib is ready and he is the keynote speaker. So over to you, and then I believe you'll be doing justice. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu to everyone, to all my brothers and sisters who are joining us, and Jazakumullah to you for inviting me. It is a great honor and a great privilege and a great pleasure to be with you. Raza Saab has set the bar so high, I'm going to struggle to come anywhere near it. So I apologize in advance that I was hoping I'd go first and then Raza could come after me and then he'd be even more in the spotlight. But he's set a wonderful, wonderful standard. And as Ahmed brother, he said, he's summed up things in such a beautiful, simple way. My objective is really to try and Actually, just on the point of what Reza said, a wonderful quote from Charles Dickens' book, David Copperfield, comes to mind. And the quote, and this is written in about 1850, a different time. And in the book, Mr. Micawber, one of the characters of the book, David Copperfield, he quotes, annual income, £20, annual expenditure, £19, 19.6. So let's call that £19.95. Result, happiness. Annual expenditure, sorry, annual income, £20, annual expenditure, £20.05. Result, misery. And that's the critical part of it. Indebtedness gets you into misery. There's a wonderful saying that sins are like credit cards. Enjoy now, pay later. And that's just a small thing to bear in mind. And again, just another quote that comes to mind is, happiness is not getting what you want, but wanting what you got. And that, in some ways, is the essence of living within your means. I'm old enough and ugly enough to remember previous periods of high inflation, and there's no doubt of the harm and stress and difficulties caused by rising prices, especially when incomes remain the same. A lot of my thoughts here are very much my own observations after many years and do not represent any Jamaat policies. So I just want to make sure that we're very clear that any judgments or advice or guidance I give are very much my own knowledge and my own understanding. The first question that we have to look at is how to manage on a reduced income and shop wisely. And again, I remember my parents living very simply. And again, I come back from a background where we didn't have, for example, a washing machine. And every Saturday and Sunday, we would get a shopping trolley. My mother would fill it up and we'd walk down to the local laundrette with a little bag of coins, and we'd put our coins in the slot and wash our clothes in the public laundrette. We didn't have a television. We had to go, I remember when the first moon landing took place, we went to the house next door to watch on their television the first moon landings. And my parents, who had very little, but lived the most simple lives, followed the saying of penny wise, pound foolish. So they watched every penny they spent, and then the pounds took care of themselves. And the reality is, to some extent, in this world, we now all live beyond our means in some shape or form. And I'm sure many of our brothers and sisters have been forced into some form of indebtedness, whether it's credit cards, whether it's loans, or even obviously bigger debts such as mortgages, etc. And I just wonder how many of you actually know how much that credit cards actually cost you in terms of the interest rate, and how much that, in many ways, we're becoming slaves to that indebtedness, that becomes the major determinant of our lives. And so what I want to try and do today is give you some ideas and thoughts. Some of them are very obvious. Some of them I hope you'll find useful, and you might just want to have a think about in terms of practical ways to try and save money around the house in your day-to-day lives. If you have credit cards, and I'm not going to cast a judgment on anyone if they have a credit card and they have a credit card balance, very often there are interest-free periods when you switch between credit cards. A lot of people do that, where they switch between a card, get the benefit of an interest-free period, and then they move that balance to somewhere else. So they're not paying the exorbitant 25, 30, 40% interest rate, which credit cards normally charge. So keep an eye out for interest-free offers on credit cards if you have a credit card balance, and try and save some money in that particular way. And as I said, we all have to be realistic that in this day and age, in order to live some kind of life in a developed world, many of us don't have an income which is sufficient to cover the expenditure. So we will have to rely on debt and credit cards. So that's one thing to think about switching, as long as there are cheaper deals out there. My own personal tip, and I found, is that I try not to use credit cards, but always to pay with cash. Now, I know post-COVID, that's more difficult, but if you pay with cash, you know exactly where you're spending your money and how much is in your pocket or how much is in your bank. With a credit card, you lose control so easily. It's just human nature. So if you can avoid using credit cards, use cash where possible. And that way, you'll have a much greater control over your expenditure, and you'll be able to understand exactly where your money is going on a week-to-week basis. Always shop around to get the best deals. There's so many deals with companies trying to get the best, trying to get your business. And one of the interesting things is that loyalty cuts both ways. A lot of companies do not actually reward loyalty. So if, for example, you have a car and you're a member of the AA, typically the AA will automatically renew your membership at the end of the first year. Now, if you have one of the sort of selections which I have, for example, with the AA, it costs £209 a year to renew it. But if you cancel it at the day 364 and then miss out a day and then take it out again, you can often get exactly the same service for about £95. But there's a company who will actually penalize you for your loyalty. And that's something you always need to look out for and think about how many other companies actually reward your loyalty. I have British Telecom for my internet. Every year or every time my contract comes up, I go and check the other companies, I check where I can get a better deal, and then I'll phone British Telecom and I'll negotiate and I'll tell them that Virgin are offering me this or Talk are offering me this price, and get them to say, if you want to keep my business, you've got to match them or do better than them. Otherwise, I'm going to switch to somebody else. Small little tips, but these little tips of saving 10, 20, 30 pounds here, there, in all your household bills can actually add up to quite a significant saving. We've all looked at the energy bills and the problems around the rising bills, etc. Please, you've seen all the tips from everybody out there. Lower your thermostats by 1 or 2 degrees. You really won't notice the difference in terms of the boiler and your heating settings. And if you are feeling the chill, just put on that extra jumper, that extra pair of socks, and you'll see a significantly lower bill without it really impacting on your lifestyle. So lower your boiler settings, lower your thermostats. Again, simple things like washing machines. Don't run your washing machine at 40 degrees, run it at 30 degrees. A lot of the powders now can clean just as well at 30 degrees, and you won't be heating up the water in your washing machine. It's another small way of saving money. Defrost and clear your fridges and freezers. Make them run more efficiently. That will reduce the amount of energy that they consume. Insulate your houses. Foam insulation typically costs £15, but actually can save about £10 every year. So within 18 months, you've made your money back of installing foam insulation. You could also have a hot water cylinder. An 80mm one typically costs about £16, but in a year, the insulation benefit can save you about £70 in running costs. Don't heat any unused rooms. If you have any unused rooms in your house, keep the doors closed and keep the heat in. Use money-saving apps to find bargains locally. And there's one very good app, and I'll send all this information I'm going to give you to Ahmed Saab, and he can share it with the members. There's a lovely app on the phone called Too Good To Go, which some of you may be using already. And Too Good To Go is an app where local stores, at the end of every day, rather than throwing out their food, they sell you something called a magic bag. And in that, restaurants do the same. And you can choose where you want it to be within a 1 kilometer or 2 kilometer range of your house or where you live, etc. And you'll get this little notification to say that Cafe Nero, for example, is selling its unused baked goods and its sandwiches, normally for £15, it will sell them to you for £4.50. You can reserve the bag and it tells you what time to come and pick it up. So small little things like that, again, can save money, and it can give you that little extra sort of luxury, effectively, but for not a lot of money. Restaurants are the same, local shops are the same. Rather than them throwing out food which has gone or coming up to its sell-by date, they'll put it on the Too Good To Go app, and you can use that to try and find the bargains in your local area and save money. A lot of us have books and children's toys, etc., that we don't use. Sell them on eBay, Facebook, Marketplace, Gumtree, any old clothes, etc., children's bicycles, DVDs, all these things. We all have a drawer full of old things that we don't use anymore. You'll be surprised how much you can sell them on sites like eBay. And if anybody wants help in that regard, we have a number of members within our Jamaat who actually, one in particular who's a part of our Sunnah Tijarat team, who does exactly that. He sells on eBay. He buys curtains and towels and he sells them on eBay, and he makes between £200 to £300 a month of extra income. He's very happy to get on a phone with you, and if you'd like, we can do a short presentation at any time for the PAAMA brothers and sisters who may find something like that useful. There's a lot of these cash back sites as well, which give you money back on your online spending, Quidco, Top Cashback, etc. It's often worth investigating these if you're spending money regularly online to see if you can qualify for some cashback offers. A very important tip is to draw up a monthly budget and make sure you write down your outgoings and your income. And that will make it very clear to you where you are running into difficulty, which of your items are causing you the biggest stress in terms of your expenditure. And those are the ones you then need to focus on to see how you can bring them back into line. A lot of people still have the old landlines. Get rid of your landline. No one uses it very much anymore. That could save another few £100s a year, and just switch to your mobile and use that money for your mobile. And then obviously that will save money in that regard. Some brothers and sisters have unused subscriptions, whether they're on television channels or whether they're the gym, etc. A lot of people don't actually go to the gym, but they just have the membership there. And you can find a lot of free exercise classes on YouTube, for example, and you can easily save money on memberships by just doing your exercises, etc. And you don't need, if you're not using Netflix enough, then don't subscribe to it. Your Disney Plus or whatever other subscription services you may have. An interesting challenge is to take 1 or 2 days every month and challenge yourself to have a zero spending day, and see how you can plan meals where you just use everything that's within the house. And if you're going to work and you buy yourself a coffee in the morning from a shop, make it at home and take it with you. So just think of ways where you could have a zero spending day, that everything you do is actually within your own resources rather than spending money externally. As I gave you an example of the bad side of loyalty. A good example of loyalty is a lot of the stores now, sandwich shops, Greggs, etc., McDonald's, often give you savings as loyal customers. So think about which of those loyalty schemes you can sign up to give you some advantages. The other side of loyalty, as I mentioned earlier, don't just accept your first home insurance or your car insurance or your internet or mobile renewal offer. Shop around and see which company is willing to offer you a better deal. Same with your energy bills. That's very well publicized. There's people like the Energy Saving Trust, which is a government body. They can help you find cheaper deals. And then I'll come on to a couple of ideas, which is all around secondary incomes. And this is a very important part of what we now want to try and focus on, certainly within my Sunnah Tijarat department. We're often asked to help members with secondary incomes. And reality that in this time of hardship, people often want small luxuries and bite-sized luxuries to make them feel good. So a small piece of nice chocolate or a small piece of a nice cake or something. And for those who can cook and bake food at home, think about setting up a small business at home. If you visit www.food.gov, it explains clearly how you can do this from home by contacting your local council and the food hygiene department, and they will come round and inspect your kitchen for food hygiene, your cleanliness, your cooking abilities, your chilling, and make sure you don't have cross-contamination. It's not a difficult process. It's actually quite straightforward, and the local council are not out to try and catch you. They want you to have clean environment where if you want to do cook food at home, which you can then go and sell in local food markets, local delicatessens, local small shops. There's a small food market near me, just on the other side of Putney Bridge. And there's two very resourceful boys from Pakistan, from Faisalabad, and they've literally set up every Sunday between the hours of 2, they set up a small little barbecue and they make naan kebab. And they sell them for £6 for a naan kebab, or 2 naan kebab. Now they tell me their cost is about £1.70 to make it. So you can do the maths yourselves and work out there's a reasonable profit margin there. And it's a very simple thing to do. So if those of you who can cook and can bake goods, etc., think about setting up a local small food market. A lot of sites around the country now have local farmers markets where they're like local small business people to come and set up a business. Take free samples. When someone comes to your stand or your stall, give them a free sample to try your food. And very often that's the best way of getting someone to say, yeah, I'll buy that cake or I'll buy that particular food that you cook because I like the taste that you develop there. You can also look at other sites where some people are very good at sewing, some people are very good at making embroidered goods at home or small picture frames. They have that ability with their hands to make wooden picture frames. There's a wonderful site called Etsy, E-T-S-Y, and again, I'll send a link to Brother Ahmed, where you could sell bespoke handmade items very, very easily. And again, it's something you can just do at home. If you embroider cushion covers or good with sewing, you can earn secondary incomes like this. There's some other sites that we've come across which we find are often useful. Again, you don't need to worry about writing this down. I'll send it on. Something called www.tapenote.co.uk, which is a transcription service. So very often people will record into a recording device and they need somebody to type up what they've recorded. So they can, again, for people who stay at home, they can simply hear the recording and they can just type it up and then send it off to the person who needs it as a typewritten or a word processor document rather than a recorded document. There's another site called Testing Time, and Testing Time is about product testing, where companies pay you to test their product. So again, a very simple prospect. You can sit at home, the product is sent to you, you test it, you give your comments, and Testing Time pay you for your time of testing their products. Research Tribe is mystery shopping, where a lot of shops want people to be a mystery shopper, to come in and see what their service is like, what the staff are like, etc. And they want you to be a mystery shopper going through their online or physical store, and they'll pay you to be a mystery shopper. For those of you who have the academic backgrounds, there's a lot of opportunities with online tutoring. Superprof.co.uk is one site that gives you the ability to be an online tutor, again, working from home. And one other site that I like in particular is something called ClickWorker. You're all very familiar or you're aware of artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence is this new way where computers are now beginning to look at technology, and they need people to do repeat actions to train the algorithm on how people behave. And so there's a site called ClickWorker, which is training artificial intelligence systems. And ClickWorker pays people to go on and help train artificial intelligence systems. You don't need any skills around this, but it's something if you just have a basic capability. we can definitely introduce you to some of these opportunities. Within the Jamaat, we try and run some courses. We're in the middle of a digital coding course at the moment, which gives members a qualification that's open to all. It's run once a week, and that is in conjunction with a company called ServiceNow, who provide us with all the online and all the capability of learning online. So that's a digital course we're running now. We'll be launching a plumbing course in Batapatu, which is obviously a little bit far away, but we're going to record it. And so people can learn how to do plumbing at home and online. We ran an electrical course last year, which alhamdulillah was very well taken up. And if there's sufficient interest, we're very happy to run that electrical course again to allow people to become qualified electricians, or at least save money by doing their own electrical repairs at home. So there's a lot of support within my department, within our team. Just reach out to us, whatever we can help and advise you with. It'll be an honor and a pleasure to help our brothers and sisters in any way that we can. Jazakumullah, I hope you found that useful.
Jazakallah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abdul Salam, for that insightful information that I believe everyone would have benefited from. And myself, I think I've got one tip there, and that is because everyone knows I'm a very, very good cook. So that is that is where I'm going to explore my abilities and see how best I can get into the market to start dishing out, some cooked meals from home. All jokes aside, I guess we're a bit behind schedule. And I believe Brother Saab has got some data for us to just give us a bit of a insight into how things are, skyrocketing with the prices in the United Kingdom, for instance, before we move to the Q&A session. Brother Saab, are you good to go? Or can you make Brother Saab co-host so that he can unmute himself, please? Benjamin Saab?
He was before. I'm not sure what's happening. Okay.
No. He dropped out and he came back.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes. So what exactly? I don't understand this.
Sorry,
how the prices have gone up. Yeah.
Just to let people understand how things are. How difficult the situation is in the United Kingdom, because not all of us have the chance to really follow this. Even though when you go to the shop, you fit in your pocket, but some stats of those you have.
It's gone quite up, and I think it was a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think if you've been listening to Voice of Islam, by the way, you would know what's happening. We've seen. I think if you go shopping in the first place as a husband, you should go shopping as a husband just to see. Sometimes what we do is like, where did all the money go? The women are asked, where did all the money go? What happened to the budget and this and that? Because we don't realize what is happening in the aisle. So the price of eggs, butter, bread, you name it, they have just skyrocketed. Now, food prices are rising. I'm just using a script from one of the shows that we've done on inflation and how the situation was here in the UK. Different markets or different companies here in the UK, they have made a profit from that, of course. But then, at the same time, you have seen that certain companies have imparted that rise of cost to the customer, but certain companies haven't. For example, Aldi is adding more than £1 billion of sales a year at this current rate of growth. You have Aldi and Lidl as well, both of them, which are big, rivals at the moment. Now, the British pound, as we know, a couple of days ago, has reached the lowest level against the dollar, which has an impact, I'm sure Ahmed Salam knows a lot more than this, on how we buy things and how things are here. UK inflation has hit a 40-year high of 10.1% year-on-year last month and predicts to go past 18% in January. As far as the prices are concerned, I don't seem to have that in front of me right now. Maybe it's a different one, but it's in some cases it's 18% and even above that.
So I think we all know the reality of the situation. Whilst the numbers may tell us it's 10%, we all know it's way beyond that. And I go shopping exactly as you suggest. So I know, how much even, a packet of toilet rolls has suddenly gone from £3 to £4.50. And you think, how has that suddenly happened? But my income hasn't gone up to match it, but that's the reality of it.
Jazakumullah. And I believe our brother Rashid Enin is ready to take us through the Q&A session. I believe there are so many questions to really go through all these areas where our panel will be able to do some justice for us. Thank you very much. Rashid, over to you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, jazakallah. I think generally most of the, alhamdulillah, most of the questions have been covered by panelists with their exceptional speeches they've given. So I would try and pick out the ones that haven't been covered, so just as we can save a bit of time. As you're well aware, I think there are a lot of our brothers and sisters who have come to the UK to study. So I think there are a lot of questions around how they kind of manage their finances around, within this current climate. So I think we'll start with Ahmed, yourself, if that's okay. It says, it's a struggle for most Africans that come here, who have come here recently, to meet their needs due to the restrictions. Presumably this is on the restrictions on how many hours they can work. So in order to cover their fees, rent and transportation, etc., do you think there's anything they can do, or if there is any organization, associations that can loan some money to them that they can pay back whilst they work and study?
I guess this question is will be better placed by Mr. Ahmed Salam to deal with it, but then I'll try to just give a little bit of a gist, and then maybe if you want to come in with some of the organizations who can actually help with our students. I guess there's this whole issue of, coming into the United Kingdom and things will be much better. And as such, some of us come from back home without actually making any planning, and we just throw ourselves in only to realize that things are not the way we expected. We have a lot of students coming in, and some of them, for instance, are not really fully aware of the fact that when you come here, there are restrictions of how many hours you can work. And then there's an idea that, yes, when I come, I'll work to pay all my fees and whatever it is, which is not the reality on the ground. So in the end, when they come in, then it becomes something very difficult for them. Some of them ending up deferring their courses, or even some of them literally just canceling the whole courses. So this is where I guess you need to really give a more insight into some of the situation on the ground. And I believe Ahmed Sab will probably come in to give us a proper idea of what the grounds are if you're a student, and if you are here to study, how many hours you can work. And if the situation is not as green as it is, then maybe you need to secure yourself much better before you come in. There's this issue of I need to pay for my accommodation, there's electricity bill, there's transportation, and then there's food bill and all this. And with this, skyrocketing, like Brother Raza Sab was giving us, when things are really going that high up, how am I going to be able to, make any ends meet with only 20 hours or less? work. Maybe probably Abdul Salam Sab, Ahmed Sab can give us some tips as to how you can utilize that 20 minutes to make that money. But I don't think there's any shortcuts here. The reality is a reality. And in such a situation, if we don't really work hard and get the real grasp of the things, then unfortunately we will land ourselves in more difficulty than we expected. But I'll hand over to Ahmed Sab. Maybe probably he might want to share more facts on this.
Okay, so it's part of what I talked about at the end of my talk, which is about having secondary forms of income and trying to find secondary forms of income and using the skills that you have, however you have them, and using the imagination to try and just start off a small business that you can do. You are restricted on the number of hours, and I don't have the numbers in front of me at the moment. And so you don't want to be doing anything which is illegal, clearly. You don't really want to take on debt because you won't get debt. If you're a student, you're not going to get debt. So you're going to have to either rely on friends or family, or there is the ability to approach the Jamaat and ask them Nisab if you're having difficulties at the moment. And a number of members are doing that who are having difficulties. They write to Nisab UK and they request for some financial assistance, which is given as a interest-free loan. So that's an option that people who are having particular difficulties can write to Nisab and ask for some sort of assistance. But other than that, the more proactive thing would be to say, what can you do to try and help you stand on your own feet by looking at other ways of earning income, by doing small businesses on the side? That would be my honest suggestion. And if somebody has some skills and ideas and they want to talk about it offline, I'm very happy to help in any way that I can. We have a member of my team, Noor Jodhi Saab, who's a qualified accountant, and he's a lecturer in small businesses, how to set up a small business and what you need to go through. So we have the knowledge and the expertise within the Sunnah Tijarat team to help someone if they want to try and set up a small business. I hope that helps.
Jazakumullah. I think that helped. I think that leads us quite well into the next question, which is how soon can an immigrant or student set up a business in the UK, and what are the processes they have to go through to establish this business?
Again, there's no restriction. If somebody wants to start a business on the first day they arrive, they can do so. So whether they just set up a company, and it's very easy to buy an off-the-shelf company for a few pounds, and they can start their business activities immediately.
Good. I think we'll address this one to Raza Ahmed Saib. I think when you spoke earlier, you made a lot of references to the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and how he lived his life, a simple life. So a question here is with references to some hadiths. Is it the case that Islam does not stress on encouraging people to have a lot of wealth or excessive creation of wealth?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Now, the example that I would like to give, and I think everybody knows about this, when during the lifetime of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, he would request for funds. He would ask that if anybody can help out in the way of Allah, what would happen? I mean, you know about the race between Hazrat Umar and Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq. Now, you probably don't know, and I think Hazur has mentioned this in his sermons as well, that Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq was quite a successful businessman. If you look at Hazrat Khadija, she was a very, very wealthy and successful businesswoman. So if we find people like that in the history of Islam, then it certainly does not mean that you are discouraged from owning wealth, you are discouraged from acquiring wealth, or Islam does not want you to be wealthy. What Islam does not want, and I think that's something, if you listen to Ahmed Saab's speech and what I've said as well, is to keep that wealth to yourself. So whenever we have an opportunity to give that wealth and to help society in any way, shape, or form, then that's something that you're supposed to do. As that the financial system within the Jamaat as well has been created in a way that it doesn't put necessary or unnecessary burden on anyone. But at the same time, it does not discourage you, and it's not based on how much you earn. It's not based on what you work and whatnot. But if you look at the history of Islam, if you look at the history of even the Jamaat as well, as Jawifullah Khan Sahib, he was a very wealthy man. But how did he live his life? What did he do with that money? Was it there to show off? Was it there to display in front of everyone? No, it wasn't. It was there to help as many people in his surroundings and his society as possible. And that's what I understand from the hadith. That's something that I've understood from what the Holy Quran says, that the Holy Quran never says that you shouldn't be wealthy, you shouldn't be. If that was not the case, then we couldn't help in the way of Allah. Well, the Holy Quran only says in the verses that I've said that you shouldn't exceed the bounds. Any extreme, one way or the other, is not good. So if you hold back altogether, or if you give everything that you have, again, that's the way to look at it. But it does not discourage the Holy Quran or the Hadith from owning wealth and from being wealthy, according to
Jazakallah. I have a question for
just a quick one there. I think just one tiny bit before Brother Bayo want to make an announcement. I believe it's an agent announcement.
Yes, Jazakallah. So sorry to interrupt this section. So this is just a quick follow-up of this program, and it's been organized by women. So that is the Lajna, PAAMA Lajna. So they call this event Personal Development Workshop. So where they will have opportunity to have opportunity in police, empowerment, women technology, so care, and all the other opportunities which they will be talking about in that program. So it's kind of follow-up. So the Lajna President Sahiba has contacted me to make this announcement. So please note it down. It's going to be on 19, and inshallah we'll be sending the poster to you as well. Jazakallah.
Jazakumullah. Brother Raza Sab's point is very, very important. I just wanted to add one tiny bit, which our beloved Huzu keeps stressing, that yes, we can make all the money that we want to make, but it should never ever be that we follow the money so much so that we start worshiping our Allah. He says that is the point that we need to always, that's the point that we have to stop. We need to make sure whatever the situation, yes, go on seeking the money as much as you want, but it should never ever come to a point where it starts disturbing your own relationship with Allah. Jazakumullah.
Jazakallah. Abdul Salam, Ahmed Salam, sorry. I have a question for you, which is, do these secondary incomes have to be declared and taxed? I presume so.
Yes, any income has to be declared, but if you do it under a company, i.e. set up a company, you pay a much lower rate of tax than if you were to put it onto your personal name. So that's another advantage, but then you can look at the expenses you have to run the business and you can offset those. So it's just the profits that you're being taxed on, not the income, not the actual sales of your product, but just the profit you make. So it's actually to your advantage to set up a company and then to sell your product through that company and pay a lower tax rate through the company on the profits you make.
Just while you're on, there is another question. I think earlier you said you'd encourage people not to use credit cards. However, obviously, as you mentioned, as part of that as well as that, obviously due to the current situation, people might want to use credit cards so that they can pay back later. Now, I think the question here says, we are told to get credit cards and spend on it in order to build credit score to gain access to mortgages and stuff like this. So is this true that we need to spend on credit cards to gain this credit score?
It's interesting you say that, because of course, what is that trying to do? It's trying to encourage you to take on more debt.
Yeah.
So the whole system is geared to trap you into debt. So get a higher credit score so you can get a mortgage more easily. What's mortgage? It's a debt again. So there is a balance and a trade-off here between, yes, getting a credit score, but you should never regard it that having a credit card helps me get a better credit score, because you must always be living within your income, within your means, and not stretching yourself so far that you're putting yourself and your family in a potential risky situation by taking on too much debt, which is what the system is designed to do. The system wants you to take on more and more debt. That's the problem with the capitalist system that we have at the moment, which of course the Islamic economic system is completely against. Just to go back to Reza's point, Islam allows you to make profits and to make healthy profits, not excessive profits, but based off equity, not of debt. And that's a very big difference, because in the Western world, profits are made from debt. They're not made from actually equity. So I think this is a whole different subject, and we don't have time to go through it now, but I hope that helps.
Yeah, I think, well, following on from there was, is there any way to build your credit score without a credit card? But I think we will leave it there, as you said. I have a question for Raza Ahmed's type, which is, what are the key things new couples or parents should take into account in terms of securing their finances?
And that's probably something Ahmed could answer a little bit more. I know. I think it's a learning curve for everyone. I think for young couples as well, especially you have to manage together. I mean, that's the only thing that I can say. Islamically speaking, there's not much that I could tell you specifically in this regard, but I'm sure Ahmed knows about certain things that even I can learn from.
Well, my generation was brought up on two can live as cheaply as one. And that was what my mother used to say to me before I got married. And I said I was worried about not having enough money for my wife. He said, two can live as cheaply as one. Because in their generation, that was exactly it. The wife was home to cook. The husband didn't have to go out and have meals outside, etc. And so the whole system was very much geared towards minimizing costs. Of course, there are tax advantages of being married. You get a better allowance, etc. If you set up a business with your wife, there's significant advantages to being in a partnership with her in terms of you both having an income which is tax-free, etc. So there are real tangible benefits of being married and being able to work together to maximize your income and maximize your allowances from the government perspective.
Jazakallah. Just while you're on, would you encourage PAAMA members to partner up or to establish businesses? Are there any benefits to this?
Raza, do you want to go with that one first, or do you want me to?
No, go ahead, please.
So this question comes up quite often, and it's so important that this is done correctly. Members should always go into partnership, and actually on the 19th of November, we're having a networking event of Ba'ath al-Fudul, which is the first one we're doing, which is exactly to encourage members of the Jamaat across industries, across backgrounds, to network amongst each other. And inshallah, this is the first one that we'll be doing, and then we'll roll it out across the country. We'd love to come up to the Midlands at a later date and try and do this networking. And the idea is to encourage networking amongst Jamaat members, both professionals and business people, and to get them to understand exactly who else we have, because by the grace of Allah, we have such talented young professionals and business people within the Jamaat now. We want to get them to network better and work with each other better. So the short answer is absolutely. If you know somebody, you trust them, and they have a skill set that you don't have, and you feel you could partner together, be completely transparent. The Holy Quran gives the instructions as to how you should document your relationship, how you should write down and witness exactly what you're entering into a partnership. But absolutely, you should go into it, but go into it with your eyes open, So you don't risk your personal relationship with somebody within the Jamaat, but you keep it in a very professional, transparent, upfront, honest way.
Yeah, I think a wise man once told me, if you want to get into a business with anyone, even if it's your son, you make sure you get a lawyer and an accountant involved. There's a question here which says, can a student set up a business as they are only allowed no more than 20 hours a week because of their studies? So is this something they can do?
Again, there's no restriction on somebody setting up a small business, like I said, the cooking business or any other small business, car washing, whatever it might be. There's no restriction on somebody being able to generate a small amount of extra income to help pay for their studies, etc.
Right, I think they worried that if they did their business, obviously, if you set up a business and you did your tax returns, on the records would show that you obviously you gain in tax, and which would that not affect your 20 hours that you're, because I think essentially students don't get taxed.
I think this is a technical area between the income levels that you are allowed to generate. And so I wouldn't want to mislead anyone. I can get the answers and send you a note which can be circulated amongst the members.
Jazakallah.
This is Raza Saib. Question which for you is it possible to be charitable in these times of uncertainty, and are there any limits to how generous you should be with your money?
Absolutely. I think yesterday's khutbah was a proof of that. I have to say, for me, every year as a Murabbi, it's quite a faith-inspiring experience. We hear Hazur talk about these incidents in different parts of the world, in Africa and Asia and whatnot. But these examples we have in front of us here as well, where I know personally that young khuddam who have a saving of, I don't know how many pounds, how many thousand pounds, which they were saving up for their wedding or for their cars or whatever it is, and they just give it all, and how Allah Ta'ala rewards them, how Allah Ta'ala blesses them from ways that you cannot imagine. I know when I was in Canada, for example, it doesn't matter what time we live in. It doesn't matter how much you have or how little you have. This has to do something with your intention. This has to do something with who are you doing this for and why are you doing this. I mean, in the Holy Quran, Allah Ta'ala has made it very, very clear, categorically clear, that this is something, whatever you give, little or not little, just remember one thing, it came from me. And the Prophet Messiah also has said the same thing, that you cannot love two things at the same time. You cannot love money and you cannot love God at the same time. So when we say, okay, what's the threshold? How much can I give? How much can I not give? As soon as you go into this and start thinking about it, of course you have to think how much you have available. As you know, you have to make a budget, you have to go through the month. But we know that Tariqa Jadid does not, or any financial year, does not start a month or 2 months before the finish of that year. You have a whole entire year, you have a whole entire year to plan and whatnot. So according to my opinion, according to myself, and what I've read, it doesn't matter in what situation you are. Is it difficult times? Is it not difficult times? Right? And the best proof of that is Hazur's khutbahs every single year at the end of the Jadid or Jadid or whatever faith-inspiring incidents that we have of children, men, women, adults, old, young, you name it.
There's wonderful old saying, you should give till it hurts. And that's actually that. You should give till it hurts. When you know that it's just hurting you a little bit, or you're sacrificing something to give for that beneficial cause, a sadaqah, a charity, whatever it might be. That's the right point. And that doesn't matter whether it's good times or bad times. Give till it hurts.
we grew up in a way that we had to give our pocket money to our Nazim Atfal. And the reason being behind that is like, as long as you don't see that money leave your hand, you don't realize how much you actually are attached to it.
Yeah.
So as you said, I mean, there's different ways of explaining this or making sure that our children will understand that. This is something that we've learned.
Jazakallah, Raza Saib, I think you spoke about obviously about even Tariqat al-Jadid. So we have a question here which says, what is the most effective prayer or prayers that one can recite to seek Allah's help with meeting financial commitments?
By meeting financial commitments. There's an incident of Hazrat Ghulam Rasul Rajeki Sahib, one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, and he, I believe, was in debt. And he asked what to do about it, what can be done. And in his book, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong here, he wrote that after the first namaz, so I think Fajr, except with the exception of Isha, you should recite La hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-ali al-azim. That's one of the prayers that I do remember. But I think there's other prayers as well of the Holy Prophet ﷺ that talk about him being safeguarded of debt. I actually had that prayer as well for the presentation for this program. So you can search up for it.
I think it's in Abu Dhabi, and I'm trying to remember exactly what it is. It's protect me from the burden of debt and the anger of men.
There we go.
That's it. Wow.
Jazakallah. Well, in these difficult times, there is a question that says, how do we maintain our faith in the face of all these financial difficulties? I think I'll give that to Ahmed Salam Saib, if that's all right.
We're told how many times in the Quran that you will be tested at every stage, and you'll be tested with your possessions and your faith, and we just have to maintain our faith. And when we go into that sajda, and we're at that most humbling moment when our head is down in front of our Allah, and we just have to pray and pray and pray, and that's when faith is tested. And it's for the strong, and it's not always easy. And we all face it. I faced it many times in my life. I'm sure everybody who's here today have faced it, but that doesn't change the core strength of our faith, that for every difficult time, there is a time of ease as well. The Quran tells us this so many times. It's all in the Holy Quran, exactly moments like this, how we should be, how we should think, and how we should react.
Jazakallah. I'll come to you.
There is a small quotation from the Prophet Isaiah, Malfuzat Volume 1, which beautifully encapsulates this, and I'll just read it out. It says, the rank of those who are absorbed in Allah is greater than those who are seekers on the path of Allah. Almighty Allah does not make the former group of people go on as mere seekers. Rather, he casts them into adversities himself and then pulls them towards himself through his eternal spiritual magnetism. All the prophets were absorbed in Allah as such, and they were all tried. So this is how he says Allah himself puts us in the trial so that he can just draw us closer. However, if you don't get closer to Allah in that sense, then that is where it starts turning to some difficulties in your life, such as a punishment or something. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah for that explanation. Ahmed Saib, Ahmed Ouskunaid Saib, this is for you. Does family planning have any bearing on wealth creation and management?
Rather, Saib is laughing because this is not my question.
I see what Rashid did there.
It's actually for him, not for me.
Very wise man.
I want to think that whoever has probably asked this question will be thinking that when you are having more kids, it comes with a lot of responsibilities. Like we live in the Western world, and that's the mentality that we have now. Hence, majority of the people are now moving away from. We are not even going to have kids at all. Some of them saying they are saving the ecosystem, or they are climate change advocates. People who love climate change, and as such, they are not going to actually have kids, because the more you have them, the more you put the whole system into difficulties. In fact, that is totally debunked by the Holy Quran. That Allah, is the one who actually, look after us. So we should not kill our children. I'm paraphrasing it here, due to what the issue of poverty. So the whole idea of I'm scared of having children because I cannot look after them is nowhere near here or there. It doesn't even come anywhere near. That's something that a Muslim or any believer should actually even conceive in his mind. Because Brother Sab beautifully puts it, says you need to understand every penny, whatever is coming your way is something that Allah himself provides. And Allah says he's going to provide for us. So we should never. And that is the only condition for which we are actually not allowed to be going for family planning. That you wouldn't want to say that I'm not going to have children because I cannot look after them. You can have so many other reasons, but for that particular one, Allah says you're not going to it. I believe in summary, this will do.
I think that ties straight into the next question, which is probably you can answer again, which is that how do parents deal with kids when they are demanding for things in this current climate of difficulties, which they don't have money for? Yeah.
I want to think I'm not the only panelist with kids here. Rather stop correcting me. Pushing all the kids' questions to me here now. Okay. I think it's something very important, especially in this climate where kids, especially those of us who live in this Western world. Africa will probably be a bit different because we know how African kids are. No matter how difficult they go through, they will still be smiling and be running across the street. Rather, some have got his own wonderful experience when he was in Africa, and they'll tell you, listen, that guy has not got any shoes to walk about, or he doesn't even have any slippers. He goes to the barefoot and he runs around happily. But over here, the kid is looking for an iPhone Pro or whatever it is, and if you don't give that child, then he's going to cry because he wants it. Not that he needs it, he wants it. And I remember what beloved Huzur said, even when it came to this issue of providing phones for the children. And it's like, the kids ask Huzur, when can I have a phone? They are expecting Huzur to say, okay, Huzur, yeah, it's fine, you can go for it. Huzur was like, no, whenever your parents think you need to have one. And I think Huzur also answered that question of, trying to be excessive with our parents, especially for the kids, that we should always ask for things that we need, and then always do it with that humility to our parents. And if the parents have the means, then they'll provide for us. But for the parents, I guess it's more of giving the right training to our children and letting them understand the situation in which we find ourselves, that this is the situation in which we are. Let's turn to Allah in such a circumstance. And then unfortunately, I do not have it now. Sadly, we know so many parents, because they are just we have some parents who normally get into spoiling the children, and they will just go for credit cards like Ahmed Sabas and just go and buy the stuff for the children because they don't want the children to be disturbed. But in such a circumstance, explain it to the children, let them understand. Children do listen, talk it to them, pray for them, and inshallah they will understand that yes, we are in a difficult situation. Yes, you cannot have this meal you've been having every breakfast. Unfortunately, things are going to change now. Lunch is probably going to change, and then dinner is also going to change. And at the same time, we also be thinking of making some sacrifice on poor people who are out there, which we are actually well off when you compare to them. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam beautifully puts it, he says, to be able to be content, always consider people who do not have what you have. There are so many people that whenever you look back, you realize they do not have anywhere near whatever you have. And but when the children come to understand this, comparing them to our brothers and kids and whatever in Africa, I think they would also understand that they have to try to live within that means so that we all have a kind of contentment, because it's a training for them. Exactly.
Can I just add a very quick point here, which I've got, just by disclosure, I've got 4 children as well. I think the important thing is that very often parents want to buy their children because they don't actually want to give their children their time. And so they're buying them iPads, iPhones, etc., to keep the children quiet. And that's one lesson I learned from my father, and he learned from his father. The most important things you can give your children is your time as a parent. And that really is the lesson to deal with the issue. The kids wanting things the whole time, but actually if you spend time with them, they'll know you better, they'll understand you better, they'll understand the circumstances better, and there'll be less pressure on you to buy them material things.
If I may, I think one thing that Amtab just hinted towards is for young parents, sometimes it's our fault. We buy them things in the beginning to keep them happy and whatnot because we can. But then you don't realize that if you have an unlimited supply in the beginning and all of a sudden then you say, you know what, now we cannot afford it, you are confusing the child. It's up to us to be, to have that kind of discipline from the very get-go. I know it's very difficult. As a parent, you want to give your children the world, and toys are nothing. But you have to think about the long-term consequences. For example, Hazrat Muslim in his book, when he talks about the different steps of how to teach children, discipline is one of them. Doing things on time, not to give them excessively this or excessively that. That's something that is important. I know because I have a 6 and a 3-year-old, so I'm just getting started with these things. And it's if you don't stop them now, or if you don't keep them in, I wouldn't say keep them in line, but stay within your means now, those demands are only going to grow. I don't have to deal with iPads just now, but when it gets to the time when I have to deal with iPads, I know they're not that cheap. So if I train my children right now from this day and age, when they are, very young, where you can shape them and form them the way you see fit, then ultimately later on in life, you hopefully you won't face these problems. But I think we spoil the children from the very get-go, and then when it turns around on us, we blame the children, which is not their fault at all.
Jazakallah. I think we are running behind. Well, we're kind of going over the time now, so we'll take a couple more questions, and then we'll have to bring this program to a close. I think we have a question for Ahmed Salam Saib, which is, can one go into cryptocurrency or Forex trading?
No. In a pure Sharia sense, you can only buy and sell a physical asset, something which is in your hand there and then. So it could be copper or a physical asset which does not deteriorate. That is how you can buy and sell and generate a profit. A computer code is not a physical asset, and that's what a cryptocurrency is. Foreign exchange is not a physical asset, it's trading a currency. And in Islam, money is a means of exchange. It's not a commodity or a product in itself. It's just the means of exchange. And so you cannot make money by buying and selling cryptocurrencies or foreign exchange. So
in that sense, what about investments? Can you make investments in
This requires a whole separate program. Yes, investments in shares are allowed, providing the company itself is not involved in a haram activity. But investment in bonds and debt and interest is haram.
Jazakallah. I think Brother Saib would like to.
If that's okay, there's I think 8-9 Qudan waiting for me. So if that's okay, I would like to seek permission to leave.
Permission is granted. I think you've done a lot. Jazakumullah.
Jazakumullah. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Please remember me in your prayers and everyone here, and we may get home.
Have a safe drive back.
Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.
So Ahmed Saib, should we take one more question? And
it's very dangerous when you say Ahmed Saib. Which Ahmed Saib are you?
Oh yeah, sorry. Should we take one more and then
okay
to close? I think we'll go with which one is this? Would you should one prioritize entrepreneurship over seeking employment?
That is Ahmed Salam then.
Yes, definitely.
In essence, the world has changed from when I was young, where education is important, but education is not the be-all and end-all now. In my day, if you didn't have a university degree, you could never get into a job and make money. The world has now moved on, where people who don't have academic qualifications can actually go into apprenticeships, learn entrepreneurship, learn different skills, and still do very well in their lives. So it's a very different proposition now. You need a basic level of education, and you should always try to go towards university. And I have to say one very small story here. I didn't want to go to university. When I did my A-levels, I said to my father, I know I want to go into financial career. I want to start working immediately. And my father said, no, I will not get off your back until you've done your degree. And he was 100% right. So by the grace of Allah, I had the academic capability of doing a degree, but I know it doesn't suit everybody. So we have to realize that there are other routes now which can actually be more beneficial for younger generation to get on with their lives, which are not purely academically based. I hope that helps.
Exactly. Yep, that covered it nicely. I think to ask one more question. There's question is so what is this goes to Ahmed Osukunege. Obviously Ahmed Salam Saab, you can chip in as well. What is the take on parents becoming workaholics and leaving the kids behind? How does this impact the family?
That's one of the very important questions that I believe we all have to actually think through very well, especially as parents in this very difficult times, because what happens is we need to make ends meet. But then there is always that balance that we also have to make with our kids as well. It's very, very, very important here. Because at the end of the day, we can get a car, we can get the buildings, we can get whatever we want. But if we lose those kids, then sooner or later, they are going to bounce back on us. And when we grow a little bit and we realize our children are not in for Allah, we are not having children who are going to be praying for us. When we are away, we don't see them as the lights of our eyes at this particular, old age, seeing them actually and their children and their wives actually going in the direction of worship of Allah, we would then be weeping. At that time, that money, luxury, that building, that career, whatever we have had, would not be able to make anything for us at that very moment. It's something that I guess the parents would have to. So irrespective of the situation that we find ourselves, the attention for the kids would always have to be there. And Ahmed Saab makes it quite clear there. Says that is what his parents passed on to him. That irrespective of whatever it is, that training, that tarbiyah, that we need the time. And then Huzur, beautiful police, it goes like, there should never be that a child will go to school and you come back home and there will not be mom at home. There should be that parent there for them to receive that children. And that training of, putting the children together with them, listening to Huzur together, going through some of this Islamic training is very, very important. I'll leave it here because of time, but in case maybe Ahmed Saab want to add something else. Ahmed Saab.
I think you're right. There's a wonderful saying again that I grew up with. It's God says, take whatever you want, but pay for it. And the price you pay is a very considerable price if you don't give your children your time. And I can't state it more clearly than that simple saying that the most important thing you can give your children is your time, and not to be pursuing where one partner is always out trying to earn money, the other partner needs to go and earn money as well, etc., etc. That does have a very long-term consequence.
Jazakallah. I think President Saab, Bayo Saab wants to You got your hands up. Do you want to say something?
Yes, Jazakallah. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Can we keep the announcement to the end so that people can remember?
Okay.
Because they'll probably forget when you push it in at the middle of it.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. Jazakumullah.
I think we are at the end of the Q&A session, and we'll call on our brother Hakeem Bakari Saib to give us a vote of thanks. And Hakeem Bakari Saib, if he's available.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah once again. On behalf of PAAMA North, West, and Midlands region, I want to thank everyone. I'll begin my gratitude first to Allah. I'll give my gratitude to Allah for giving us the opportunity to plan this event, and then at the end of the day, make it come to reality. Secondly, I want to thank everyone who has helped in making the event happen today, beginning with the committee chairman, Mr. Kitim Saab, and then the support of Ahmed Saab, who has been guiding the committee as well as dedicating his time to be part of the panel today to make the event successful. Then my special gratitude also goes to the guests, a team of Ahmed Saab, Ahmed Salam Saab, Ahmed Raza Saab, and Ahmed Owusu Konadu Saib. I want to thank every one of you for your time. It's been so insightful sitting with you in this event and learning from different perspectives on what we need to do as Ahmadis, to be spiritually strong and financially, okay at the same time. Finally, our special appreciation would go to all members that have dedicated their time, their precious weekend. Most people work throughout the week, and then they have to use the weekend to share with their children or rest very well to prepare for the next week. But today, they have dedicated this part of the weekend to listen to this event, and I am very sure that they would have learned one or two things from the guests regarding the need to cut our coats according to our size, and then also putting our trust in Almighty Allah in whatever we do. And I believe that Allah, the Almighty, will always guide everyone aright, guide every one of us aright, and enable us to stand by His word at this very strong moment of our life. I won't take much of our time. May Allah enable us to put all the things that we have learned here today into practice. Jazakallah once again to everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So next we'll call on our chairman, Ahmed Owusu Konadu Saib, to give us closing remarks. And then we can take some announcements from Bayusab.
Yes, I guess Bayusab can do all the announcements now, and then we just finish it.
Yeah.
Okay, Jazakallah. So, like I said before, there will be a follow-up of this event with Lajina, which I've mentioned before. On the note of the children, which have just been mentioned, so we have program for Atfa starting at 5:30. So please, some of us, all of us that have Atfa means 7 years to 15 years, please, they have program at 5 o'clock, 5:30. So the link has been shared. Jazakallah, this announcement is from the National Atfa Departments. Jazakallah, assalamu alaikum.
Jazakumullah. I think I was Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I would just add one tiny bit. A lot has been said today. There's a lot of takeaways that we've got today to take home. But there's one tiny bit that I just want to add. Something that makes us, the Ahmadis, quite unique compared to everyone else. And that is Khilafat. Yes, we're going through very difficult times now. But there's one thing that can protect us, because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam rightly said that the Khilafat is like the shield. So we should just hide behind it. This simply means that in every difficult time, we need to go at the foot of the Khalifa to protect ourselves from it. The Quran beautifully says, Kada aflaha man zakaha, and then Kada aflaha mu'minun. Success do come to those who are purified, and success do come to what the mu'minun, the believers. So whatever success that we are looking for, if we do not turn to Allah, then we will literally be making mockery of ourselves. Literally what we do is we just run and hit and then fall. So the reason why I'm saying Khilafat is what we need at this very crucial moment, is that all the guidance that we need to be able to move in the right direction, to navigate ourselves through the difficulties that we find ourselves here, is from our beloved Huzur. We can find that on MTA. We are so fortunate. You can click of a button on your phone or just at home on your TV or whatever it is, you can get beloved Huzur. So I don't want us to lose sight of that. We can do whatever we want to do. And we need to understand people in the world are probably doing much better than us when it comes to the material world. But one thing that would always make us unique and distinct is the fact that we will have Khilafat and they do not have it. And Khilafat is a light. It's a darkness period that we all live in now. There's a light which is actually someone is holding, and that's our beloved Huzur. He holds the light through this darkness. We need to just follow him so that we can always navigate ourselves through. If not, we'll just be falling in ditches. We'll fall out, we'll fall, and we'll just lose our life. So whether we want our children to be safe, whether we want ourselves to be saved, whether we want our businesses to be saved, whether we want our career, our student life, or whatever it is we want to be saved, the key is listening to the Khalifatul Masih and simply following the guidance they give us. And this, I say, is very easy on MTA. So let the parents, the children come together and make it a must that at least we will listen to Huzur on TV every day, say 50 minutes. And I can say that until and unless we start making time for this, we will never have time, because we have to go to work, we have to study, we have to do this. Every time we are busy with our lots of things in life. So we need to say that this is very important. And yet we want, and as such, we want to slot it into what? Our lifestyle, our daily routine. And the moment we are able to plug that in and start getting that guidance from Khalifatul Masih, whether 15 minutes a day, whether 10 minutes, whether 30 minutes a day, then slowly, we will see the light in our life, and everything else would eventually be successful. So may Allah enable us to be able to follow the guidance of the Khalifatul Masih and all the tips that we've got today. Let's try to do not just come and listen and just go home and then forget about it. Let's try to put them into practice so that we all benefit from the guidance that we've got today. So may Allah enable us to do so. Forgive us all our weaknesses. And once again, thank everyone for joining us for this wonderful session. I've learned a lot, and I believe most of you would have also carried a lot that you also want to implement in your lives. I guess we'll probably hand over to Abdul Salam Sahib to lead us in a silent prayer to close the session.
Please join me in silent prayer.
Jazakallah. Thank you very much.
Everyone.
Jazakallah. Thank you.